From the very beginning of human history, people have wondered how long the world will continue as it is, and whether Scripture gives any clues about a defined prophetic timeline. When exploring the 6,000-year prophetic theory, many believers point to the idea that God's plan for humanity follows a pattern of 6 days of work, followed by a 7th day of rest, mirroring the 6,000 years of human history, followed by a final 1,000-year reign of Christ. This perspective is built on the biblical pattern found in Genesis, the teachings of early Jewish scholars, and the writings of early church fathers who believed that each of God's days symbolically represents 1,000 years on earth. When reviewing this prophecy and how it is presented in various teachings and analyses, we must look at its scriptural basis, how it aligns with historical timelines, and whether the current state of the world hints that humanity is nearing the end of this prophetic cycle. The concept is not a prediction of a specific date, but an overview of the unfolding story of redemption, restoration, and the return of Christ, which is why so many find the study both compelling and sobering. One of the key features of the 6,000-year timeline theory is its reliance on the biblical statement that with the Lord, one day is like 1,000 years. Believers who explore this subject often analyze the genealogies recorded from Adam to Noah, Noah to Abraham, Abraham to David, and onward to the arrival of Christ. By adding these recorded generations, scholars estimate that roughly 4,000 years took place from Adam to Christ. Since Christ, approximately 2,000 more years have passed, bringing humanity to the edge of that symbolic 6,000-year mark. This is why many interpreters propose that the present era marks the final chapter before the prophetic rest period, the Millennial Kingdom, described in the book of Revelation. When evaluating this subject from a reviewer perspective, we see how the theory blends scriptural interpretation, historical records, and prophetic symbolism, making it both deeply theological and accessible for viewers who may not be experts in prophecy, but are curious about where we currently stand on God's timeline. Another key aspect of this prophetic model is its emphasis on patterns. In Scripture, God repeatedly works through patterns and cycles, whether through Sabbaths, Jubilee years, periods of judgment, or periods of restoration. Supporters of the 6,000-year timeline see this pattern continuing in human history itself. They often describe the first 2,000 years as the age of chaos, from Adam to Abraham. The next 2,000 years are described as the age of the covenant, from Abraham to Christ. The final 2,000 years represent the age of the church, from the resurrection of Christ until his return. Each age carries distinct spiritual themes that align with biblical prophecy. When we analyze these divisions, we see a clear progression in God's redemptive plan. The first era shows humanity's struggle under sin. The second era marks the rise of God's chosen people and the promise of a coming Messiah. The third era reveals the global spread of the gospel and the increasing anticipation of Christ's return. In this way, the timeline offers a design that is both structured and prophetic, providing viewers with a framework that feels both logical and spiritually rich. Performance-wise, the 6,000-year prophetic model resonates strongly with people today because it offers a understanding of history while connecting it to current global events. Many review-style discussions highlight how rapidly the world is changing: political instability, technological advancement, moral confusion, natural disasters, wars and rumors of wars, and increasing division among nations. These changes align with biblical warnings that the last days would be marked by turbulence, deception, lawlessness, and seismic shifts in world systems. When analyzing the model from a review standpoint, it becomes clear that its strength lies in its ability to connect Scripture with observable trends in the modern world. This is why many viewers feel the message is relevant, even urgent. The theory does not rely on isolated predictions, but on consistent prophetic themes found in the books of Daniel, Ezekiel, Matthew, and Revelation, giving it more depth and credibility for those who study end-time prophecy. A unique feature of this prophetic presentation is the way it visually represents time. Many creators and scholars use charts, calendars, and chronological timelines that help viewers understand the flow of events from creation to the present day. These visuals often include markers such as the flood, the Exodus, the building of the first and second temples, the Babylonian exile, the birth of Christ, the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, and major turning points in church history. This design element helps simplify what could otherwise be an overwhelming amount of information. When reviewing this teaching approach, it becomes clear that visual structure improves comprehension, especially for viewers unfamiliar with ancient history or biblical genealogies. The clean, chronological layout makes complex data accessible, enabling the audience to follow along even if they are not scholars. Another feature that stands out in this type of prophetic explanation is the consistent emphasis on hope rather than fear. While the topic deals with the end of the age, it is not driven by panic, but by expectation. The teachings often highlight the promises of Christ's return, the resurrection of believers, the rapture event described in the New Testament, and the restoration of the world under the reign of the Messiah. These elements create a balance between sober warnings and uplifting assurance, making the content more appealing and spiritually meaningful. For viewers who may feel anxious about global instability, the message provides a grounded biblical perspective that encourages preparation, spiritual growth, and watchfulness. From a reviewer standpoint, this balance enhances the overall delivery, making the message engaging without overwhelming the audience. The blend of prophecy, encouragement, and biblical grounding becomes a primary selling point for viewers seeking truth and direction in uncertain times. In terms of communication style, this timeline explanation often uses a narrative approach, walking the audience through significant events in history while pointing out how each era fulfills or reflects biblical prophecy. This narrative style makes the information feel like an unfolding story rather than a technical lecture. It invites the viewer into a journey from Eden to the patriarchs, from the prophets to Christ, and from the apostles to the modern age. The storytelling component is essential because prophecy is not merely about predicting the future, but about understanding God's plan through time. When analyzed from an engagement standpoint, it becomes clear why this approach works so effectively. Story-based teaching taps into human emotion and curiosity, making viewers more receptive to both spiritual insights and historical information. This design element enhances the overall performance, maintaining audience attention for longer periods, which is crucial in a video explanation format. One of the most compelling aspects of the 6,000-year prophetic timeline is the sense that we are standing at a unique moment in history. Many scholars highlight how Israel's rebirth as a nation in 1948, Jerusalem coming under Israeli control in 1967, global communication breakthroughs, digital currencies, artificial intelligence, and growing calls for world unity all correspond with themes found in end-time prophecy. These events appear to align with the restoration of Israel, the rise of global systems, the increase of knowledge, and the rapid movement toward a one-world structure hinted in Scripture. When evaluating this information, we see why so many viewers feel that these developments signify we may be nearing the conclusion of the 6,000-year cycle. It is not just that the timeline appears complete, but that the world conditions described in the Bible are manifesting with astonishing accuracy. This correlation creates a compelling blend of historical analyses and real-time observation, enhancing the credibility and impact of the message. Another notable element in this teaching is the explanation of the Rapture timeline. In Scripture, the Rapture represents the sudden gathering of believers to meet Christ in the air, described in passages from Paul's letters. Many timeline explanations present the Rapture as an event that occurs before the final 7-year tribulation period, though others place it later in the timeline. What makes the Rapture discussion unique is how it fits within the broader 6,000-year framework. Supporters of the theory argue that if humanity is truly nearing the end of the prophetic week, the Rapture could occur at any moment. This sense of immediacy draws viewer attention, not through fear, but through anticipation. When reviewing the structure of this content, it becomes clear that the Rapture discussion adds emotional depth and urgency. It connects doctrinal teaching with personal application, prompting viewers to reflect on their spiritual readiness and relationship with God. Another key review point is how accessible the theory is for viewers of all backgrounds. The explanations typically avoid overly academic language, instead using examples, analogies, and simplified breakdowns that make ancient genealogies and prophetic calculations understandable. This approach broadens the audience to include both longtime believers and newcomers to prophecy. The clarity of language, combined with the depth of information, creates a balanced delivery that respects both knowledgeable viewers and beginners. This accessibility is enhanced by the timeless appeal of prophecy. People are naturally curious about the future, and when the prophetic message is presented clearly, logically, and visually, it becomes a powerful tool for teaching, evangelism, and spiritual encouragement. Another strength of the content is its exploration of biblical numbers and patterns, which adds an additional layer of intrigue. The number 7 plays a major role in Scripture, appearing in creation, Sabbath cycles, prophetic measurements, and symbolic visions. Another notable aspect is the connection between ancient prophecies and modern events, particularly in technology and geopolitics. Many viewers are struck by how advancements in digital identification systems, global surveillance, artificial intelligence, and digital currencies seem to mirror themes in Revelation about global control, economic restrictions, and the mark of the beast. Similarly, rising tensions in the Middle East, alliances among powerful nations, and conflicts surrounding Jerusalem mirror prophetic warnings in books like Ezekiel and Zechariah. When reviewing this alignment, it becomes evident why the timeline feels more relevant today than in previous generations. People see prophecy unfolding not in hidden ways, but on global news broadcasts, social media, and technological developments that shape everyday life. The teaching also emphasizes the spiritual significance of living in what may be the final generation. Many presentations highlight Jesus' words that the generation that witnesses certain prophetic signs will not pass away before all is fulfilled. This perspective encourages viewers to consider the importance of their own time in history. From a reviewer standpoint, this element adds emotional resonance, creating a sense of responsibility, awareness, and reflection. It inspires viewers not just to watch for prophetic signs, but to live with purpose, faith, and readiness. Another part of the message that stands out is its encouragement for personal transformation. The timeline explanation is not merely intellectual. It calls viewers to examine their lives, strengthen their faith, seek truth, and return to a deeper relationship with God. This application-focused approach makes the content more than educational. It becomes spiritually motivating. When reviewing the delivery, it is clear that this emphasis elevates the message beyond historical analysis and turns it into a call to action. The teaching speaks not only to the mind but to the heart, urging viewers to prepare spiritually for the return of Christ. The overall design of the message combines prophecy, history, theology, and modern events into a single, cohesive narrative. Its unique appeal lies in its ability to unify the entire story of Scripture from Genesis to Revelation, showing that the Bible is not a random collection of writings, but a divinely orchestrated timeline that points toward a definitive conclusion. This narrative approach strengthens the viewer's appreciation for the unity of Scripture and the faithfulness of God through every generation. The more the timeline is explored, the more viewers grasp the scale of God's plan and the significance of the moment in which we live. Another strong point in the content is the reminder that prophecy is not meant to create fear but awareness. The timeline stresses that God reveals the future to encourage believers, guide their decisions, and strengthen their hope. It emphasizes that nothing happening in the world is outside God's sovereignty, and every prophetic development is moving toward the fulfillment of His plan. This message of reassurance is crucial for viewers who may feel overwhelmed by chaotic, global events. The teaching shifts their focus from fear of the unknown to trust in God's promises. Through this prophetic review, the message ultimately leads viewers to reflect on where humanity stands today. The rapid acceleration of global change, the alignment of biblical signs with world events,